Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be diving into the differences between Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, specifically how they integrate in with the in-dash experience in the F-150 Lightning that I've got here. And this isn't a sponsored video, but we're going to be covering sort of just the quick overview of the maps, how each of these work with the mapping, whether or not they integrate in with the vehicle's information, as well as some of the entertainment stuff, because that's really what we do with, it's listening to music and podcasts and stuff. So let's get into it. Actually, before I get into Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, let's take a quick look at what I had before. This is the dashboard in my Ram 1500 from 2009. And look, if I press the Uconnect button, I get a not equipped with Uconnect. So I didn't even have any voice options at all, any integration, no cell phone integration options in the Ram at all. And just to be thorough, this is the Jeep dashboard, and I do have an aftermarket JVC deck with Bluetooth, and it has a microphone right here. So, it kind of works for hands-free, but, when I'm driving in this guy, if you're on the highway, it doesn't matter. Nobody can hear you talking into this thing anyway. All right, let's get to the actual video, the stuff that you came here for. So before I get into the meat of this video, I want to give a little bit of context on my usage and my history. And every video that I've put out so far on the Lightning has been within the context of Android Auto. I'm an Android user, and that's what I prefer. And so anything that I had done with sort of the infotainment integration had been within the context of Android Auto. About a month ago, Amy and some of her friends were taking a bit of a road trip, and there was going to be quite a few of them, and this was a good vehicle for them to use just for space and being able to take all their stuff with them. And so we set up her phone to also connect into the infotainment system and hook up Apple CarPlay. And that was really my first time using Apple CarPlay at all. And that sort of made me think, like, wait, there's a bunch of things that are different and work different between the two that I thought were going to be the same. And so it actually, I had to sort of learn how CarPlay works and what goes on with that. So right now I'm actually driving to Amy. She's doing a little work right now, and so I'm going to grab her phone so I can actually show the difference between the two. And I'll show my phone on Android, and I'll show her phone with Apple CarPlay, and we'll see what the differences are. Okay, so we're going to start off with navigation as our discussion point, and I'm going to start off with navigation with Android Auto. And I think navigation is important, particularly for an EV, especially with road trips, being able to plan where you're going, being able to find charging stations, having sort of a map at your hands, easily visible, super important. So we're going to focus on that. So this is my default Android Auto view, and I've got the map here on the left, and then I've got a slightly smaller view of my music playing from YouTube Music on the right. I can maximize the map by just pressing the map button, and now everything we've got is maps. So here's something that I was kind of assuming, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we switch to other apps and things, but I was kind of assuming that this ability to see my state of charge when I get to a destination was something that was default. So I'm just going to say, let's say I wanted to go to Crystal Mountain from here, and I currently have 92% charge on the vehicle. That's 219 miles. And if I take this trip to Crystal, I will have 60% of, actually, that went just a little too fast. I didn't have a chance to talk about it. So we're gonna click this one again, and it tells me I'm gonna have 60% charge when I get to Crystal Mountain. It's uphill, so I'm gonna burn a lot, and I'm gonna have 51% left when I get here. So Google Maps is actually aware of how much charge I have in the vehicle, and it gives me an estimate of what I'm gonna be at when I arrive at my destination. And this kind of gives you that confidence of like, hey, if I leave wherever I'm at, I know that I'm going to get there with an amount of charge. And on that little screen that was up there a little bit before, can I make it home or not? From there without having to charge. Let's look at a slightly different location. So let's go somewhere a little bit further. Let's go to Spokane. And it tells me, you saw it stop in there for a second, that I'm not gonna have enough charge to get there. I'm gonna have 2 charges that I'm gonna have to stop, and it's gonna take me at least 52 minutes of charging. And I can see where the stops are at on the map. I'm gonna stop here for 23 minutes, I'm gonna stop there for 29 minutes. And that will get me to Spokane with, well, let's just say start. And it will tell me what my charging level is gonna be when I get to my first stop. So I'll have 35% left when I get to that first stop, charge for 23 minutes, go to the next stop, charge for however many. And I can go back in here and I can view my route. It's really only got one route option for me because there's not a lot of options. But I could go in here and I could say avoid highways. That's going to be wild. I wonder what it'll do if I say avoid highways, because I don't know that there's really, wow, there is a route avoiding highways. That's crazy. But yeah, we're gonna undo that so we don't forget to do that, and put us back on a much better route here. All right, so let's switch over and see what we get from Amy's phone. So we'll switch over, and hopefully it'll switch over quickly. And we get CarPlay coming in, full screen. All right, so we're gonna search for a destination, and we're also gonna go to Spokane. And it gives me, so one thing that's interesting here is it does give me 3 different routes. I'm not sure why I would take the route that takes an hour longer, but you know, hey, at least it's giving me that option
route to Spokane.
To take an extra hour.
Proceed to Southeast Sawyer Ridgeway, then turn left.
But let's just turn this off because we don't need it. There's no option for charging that came up in here at all. It doesn't have any route planning. It's not aware on screen at all of how much charge we actually have in the vehicle. So it's completely unaware of that. So I'm gonna have to do my route planning completely on my own in this, if I'm using CarPlay, which would be a little bit, I mean, it's not a problem, but it's just an inconvenience. It's a little bit more work that I would have to do that I don't have to do if I'm using Android Auto. I looked and I can add a stop. I could add a charging station. But by default, it's adding charging stations where I'm at. That's not super helpful. So, I don't know. I guess you wait till you get almost out of charge and then you choose a charging station. We could add this one that's 24 minutes away, I guess. I'm also not yeah. So that's not super great. So let's try and use Google Maps to do the same thing, because I was using Google Maps before. And so let's go back and search for Google Maps. Let's go to Spokane again. And
head west toward Southeast Sawyer Ridge.
It still doesn't give me any integration with the state of charge. So as far as I can tell, the state of charge is set in Android Auto and not something that CarPlay currently has the availability to pull out. If I do look at the main dash, it is aware of what route we're going here. And it does tell me that I'm gonna go 275 miles and I've only got 219 miles of charge available. So the truck's aware of what route we're taking from Google Maps in Apple CarPlay, but it isn't, it can't do anything with it. So in my previous video that I had on how much it costs to do a trip in the Ford Lightning, I did get some suggestions to look at ABRP, a better route planner. And I did take a look at it today as a part of like planning for this video. Like, hey, maybe there's this better option out there. So I only played with it on Android Auto because everything I find online says that their integration with CarPlay is really minimal. Even though they have announced that they were going to have some CarPlay integration, it's apparently not available yet. But even with Android Auto, to me, it was a little bit lacking. So first of all, I can get state of charge in ABRP, but it's a little complicated. You need an ODB to Bluetooth dongle to be able to use it. Now, I happen to have two of them. I have one from Blue Driver and I have an ODB Link MX. I've been using these for some of the diagnostics work I've been doing on the Ram. Unfortunately, neither of these work with ABRP. ABRP will only work with the low energy Bluetooth modules, and these are not the low energy ones. And I'm not quite sure why they'll only work with the low energy one, because I got plenty of energy in this truck, or really any truck, but whatever. So I'm not, so you'll need another ODB reader to do that. These ones are actually both of these are over $100. The ones that I would need to work with ABRP are sort of in the $50 range. But on top of that, ABRP will only work with your infotainment system with the full subscription. All right, so we're back on my phone now in Android Auto, and as you can see, I have ABRP as an application I can choose. But if I try and bring it up, it says Android Auto is an ABRP premium feature. So in addition to having to buy a dongle so that I can read my truck's state of charge so that it can calculate and figure out where I need to stop and charge at without having to manually enter it into the planning tool, I also have to pay their subscription fee to be able to get their application to come up on my dashboard. So not super happy with that. Okay, I'm actually re-recording something, so I came back, I grabbed Amy's phone again. As I was editing the video of the next section, the next segment where I did some voice testing, a little prompt comes up on the screen after I asked for directions, and it says, hey, stop and check your phone. And I didn't actually read that while I was recording the video because I was doing stuff and I'm kind of an idiot. But as I was editing it, I actually read the screen and I'm like, oh, I can get directions to a charging location if I'm using Siri and I go through and I'm doing it via Siri. Then it gives me an option to find charging locations on my phone. So I came back, I got Amy's phone again, and I just tested it out, and I cannot get that to come back. So let me show you what I'm doing now, thinking I was going to do the exact same thing. And then when you get to the next segment in the video, you'll see it comes up with the prompt, but I can't seem to make that prompt come up again. I don't know why. So let's see what we get here. Okay, so we have Amy's phone connected. It's currently using Apple Maps, and I'm just going to prompt it to send me to a city that's a long ways away. Give me a route to Spokane.
Getting directions to Spokane.
And as opposed to before, or what you'll see in a little bit when I ask via voice for directions, it doesn't pause and tell me to look at the phone. There's nothing here. If I lock the phone, I get the exact same results. Nothing changes. And if I end route, and let's switch, and let's do the same thing in Google Maps, and I'm going to do the exact same prompt. Give me a route to Spokane.
Getting directions to Spokane using Google Maps.
So again, it comes up with the route. It doesn't prompt me to stop the car and check things. I actually have the car in drive. I'm just not going anywhere. I've tried it in park. I've tried it everything. I don't know how I actually got it to come up with that prompt before. So there's clearly some way to have some integration with Apple via your phone to tell you to search for charging stations. I'm not sure how to do it. Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. But I can't seem to get that to work. So when you see that in a moment in this next segment of the video for voice searching, you're gonna look like, oh, all you had to do was look at the phone, but I can't figure out how to make that work again. So if I come up and figure it out later, I'll maybe post an update on the video, but for now, there doesn't seem to be a way to get that to happen, although there is clearly a way to make that happen. All right, just to try and see if we could redo it, I did a little searching on the internet. I've deleted the iPhone and I'm reconnecting to CarPlay. It's taking a really long time, but I'm gonna reset this connection and we'll see if that helps it. I don't know why it's taking so long. I actually plugged it in via USB this time to try and give it a better chance. There are some things saying that it's inconsistent and flaky, so we'll see what happens here. All right, so I've been trying to reproduce the ability to have either Apple Maps or Google Maps come up with the same prompt on the dashboard to look at the phone to find charging stations. So troubleshooting that, trying to get it to reproduce, to get the exact same thing I had happen earlier today. I removed Amy's phone completely from the Lightning. I deleted her phone from the Lightning. I deleted the Lightning from her phone. I reestablished the connection. I reestablished it wirelessly. I reestablished it via a USB. Even after doing that, rebooted the phone in between to try and make sure that things were clear. I couldn't get it to come back up with the same prompt. So my feeling on this is if I can't get it to happen consistently, if I can't get that prompt to come up consistently, and heck, I can't get it to come up at all right now, I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't happen, that CarPlay doesn't provide that functionality. Although I know it does because I did see it. I'm not sure what would have happened if I had looked at the phone and tried to go through those steps. That's what I kind of wanted to do, but Amy needed her phone back to go run some other errands and do some things, so I can't keep testing it. And to be honest, I'm kind of done with it. We're good. Now, that's not to say I've never had problems with Android Auto. I have had Android Auto disconnect. Sometimes I had this one place where when I was commuting to work, it would always disconnect in the exact same spot. Now, I was almost always using it wirelessly. It would almost always disconnect in the exact same place. I don't know if there's some sort of signal connectivity issues there. So I don't want to just say, Android's better. But in this case, I think the ability to identify charging locations on my route and have it understand what my state of charge is, definitely this is a win for Android Auto over CarPlay when connected to an EV, or at least a forward EV. So we'll move on. The next section I'm going to talk about is the section where we're talking about voice connectivity, and you're going to see that prompt come up in there in the next section. Okay, so let's take a moment and talk about voice commands, because voice commands are something that's also super useful while driving and a little bit tricky. So I have this button right here that allows me to initiate a voice command, and let's just say hang on, let's look over here. If I press it like this, just a tap, as you'd expect, it comes up with the forward, hey, speak now. And if I say, give me a route to Spokane, it's having a little trouble because I gave it too many words there.
Here's what I have near Spokane.
But it's going to come up with a whole bunch of things to choose from. It's not great, not super great. Also, I don't want to use the forward navigation system. This map's ugly. I'm not a fan of it. So let's go back to Android Auto. If I want, so I could press the speaker button right here. Give me a route to Spokane.
Spokane is 4 hours,
and
50 minutes
it'll
from your
do it.
location by car in moderate traffic.
And it works just great, just like that. But let's just, let's cancel out of this. The other way I can actually initiate it is if I hold down the button. Give me a route to Spokane.
Spokane is 4 hours, 50 minutes from your location by car in
So
moderate traffic.
if I hold down the button as opposed to tapping it, it'll actually continue and give me the context for within Google and within Google Maps, and I can stay within the Android Auto context without flipping back into the other experience. I think that's a better way to use it. I get what I want out of it, and it actually works. I can also use the just straight up voice command and say, hey Google, give me a route to Spokane.
Spokane is 4 hours, 58 minutes from your location by car in moderate
So
traffic.
that also works without having to press the button at all. I can initiate it. So there's really the three ways to initiate it. I can either press the microphone button here, I can press the microphone button and hold it on the dashboard, or I can use the voice command to initiate it. Either of those work from Android Auto. Okay, so now I'm learning this a little bit in Apple CarPlay. So first of all, I don't have a button on Apple CarPlay at all. So I'm just gonna try and press the steering wheel button and see what happens. I suspect it will kick off the forward button if I press it once, and it'll kick off CarPlay search if I hold it. So let's try that. We're just gonna try a single press first. And give me, well, we're just gonna cancel that because it did what we expected it to do. So now I'm gonna try and hold it and see what it does. Hey, give me a route to Spokane, Washington.
Getting directions to Spokane.
And similarly, it did that, although it's also gave me an OK prompt, but that works. So that works nicely, and it works very similar to how it worked with Android Auto. Let's just cancel this. I think I have to click here and click cancel first. Now, here's the thing. I don't see a button on here to initiate voice without pressing search first.
Where do you want to go?
Give me a route to Spokane, Washington.
Getting directions to Spokane.
So I guess I have to press OK here. I didn't have to, but it takes a little moment. So I think the experience between Google and Apple are very similar from a voice standpoint, with the exception I felt Google was just a little bit smoother without having that intermediate screen, and without having to have an extra button if I wanted to use the on-screen button to do a voice search. So say if you're the passenger and you can't reach it, or you don't want to use the voice activation. Let's just cancel this real quick, and we'll also try it using voice activation. Hey Siri, give me a route to, but it didn't kick in. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Siri. Hey Siri. Maybe because it's not my phone, it doesn't work. I'm just gonna guess that maybe the voice activation isn't working because it's Amy's phone and I'm not mapped into it. Maybe it doesn't have my voice. I don't know. So we'll give only a half ding on that because I'm not sure. I don't want to count that against them. Okay, let's move on to the let's say entertainment part of the infotainment system. I use YouTube Music as my primary music provider. I like it. I like the way it works. I like the way it integrates in. Now, one of the things I have found a little bit was just like, hey, this just, it works really well. It knows what I want. It gives me a bunch of options of things that I can listen to. By the way, my volume's down so that YouTube doesn't just like ban this video for all of the copyright music, but it sounds great. It's good. It's easy to use. I can easily select whatever music I want. I can choose, sort of my mixes. I can go forward. The controls work from the dashboard. So if I want to skip to a new song, I can choose it from here. I can control volume from here and here. That all works great and is really pretty much the way you would assume it would. Switching to the iPhone, it's also very similar. Also, this is YouTube Music, and it's again very easy to choose. Now I'm using Amy's music, so it's going to be a little different, but also works fairly well. It tends to default to using full screen in here, and we'll get a little bit into the screen options here in a moment. But This is all pretty easy to use, and again, it'll kind of play in the background while you switch to another app and move around. So I don't know that I have really a preference on, you know, how the music plays. Again, the controls from the dashboard also work. So I can press controls from the steering wheel also work. So I can push things there. I control volume and change to the next track from there. From a music standpoint, from the app, you know, and I'm primarily using YouTube Music. Spotify and everything else really works pretty much the same. Either of these are really the same and just as easy to use. So from a layout standpoint, and this gets a little bit subjective, I prefer the layout in general of that Android Auto uses, although it's very similar to what Apple CarPlay is using. Both of them have a very similar. If you want to go full screen, tap the button again, and I can switch the priority by pressing the different buttons. So if I press YouTube, it becomes the priority. If I press Maps, it becomes either the priority or takes over, or if I press it again, it'll let music slide in. This is my default view here. I like it. I can see what music's playing easily, and I still have a relatively large view of the map, assuming that the recent search stuff is out of the way. So I kind of like this view. I like the minimal amount of borders that are between here. But honestly, the Apple layout isn't bad either. So this is Apple's layout. I'm not quite as much of a fan of it. And I did notice, but when I changed the layout here, I do get the voice button up here that I was talking about earlier not being there. So actually it is there. So that's kind of nice. I feel like there's a little bit more space in between the borders here, and some of the words and buttons are a little bigger. It's just not my preference. I could see where some people may prefer that though. If I press the map, it again becomes full screen. It's a little different behavior though. So if I press map again on here, it doesn't become minimized. If I press another app, it takes over full screen. If I take over messages, we get all kinds of other things. I have to press this button down here to really get the different layout. So you get the same thing, it's just a different way of getting there in the end. So overall, they're both very similar, but my preference would be Android Auto, but that's very subjective in how that works. Okay, so this has been my review of, I guess, Android Auto versus Apple CarPlay, which I prefer. I don't think anybody's going to change their phone for this, but I do think it's an interesting comparison, because I think a lot of people use one or the other and really don't have any experience with the other one. And so people are generally locked into whichever ecosystem that they're using and really just don't get the experience with the others. I think for me, particularly with the Ford ecosystem, the way that the Ford sync system works and the way that everything works with this infotainment system, I do prefer the Android Auto. I think the key here is the integration with the state of charge, and having that integrated in with your maps easily is super valuable. So that is a big thing. In fact, when we were planning that trip for Amy, it was really hard for me to be like, oh, hey, you've got this, but it's not integrated with this. So here's how you're going to have to do this charging. And it kind of made me nervous of like, hey, is she going to know where to stop or be able to find a charging station easily? Because it's not built into the map system, and it's not doing it automatically. You have to go in and search for, in your map, search for a charging station and do things. It's just a little extra work. So, I think because of that, if I had nothing else to choose Android versus iPhone, I would choose Android. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of other things that people choose, what their phone is and why they go with one phone over the other. And usually, which EV you're driving is not a factor. And I think this totally doesn't apply for Teslas, which don't use Android or iPhone at all. They've got their own really good integrated system for connecting with your phone and doing all your navigation and everything. So that's completely different. But within the Ford system, also, I have no idea on other devices either. I will say one of the things on the layout, our Toyota also has both Android Auto and iPhone or Apple CarPlay available, but it's on an 8-inch screen instead of the 12-inch screen. And I think the extra space between the modules that CarPlay is using is really feels like wasted space on there. On the 12-inch screen, I think it's a little bit, very subjective and it's whichever you prefer. But on the 8-inch screen, that real estate becomes a lot more important, and having those extra large buttons and the extra space between the modules just feels like a lot more wasted space. So that's one more reason that I kind of prefer Android Auto. I definitely prefer Android Auto on the smaller screens on non-EVs. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you like this. We'll do more. It seems like people like the EV stuff, so I'll try and I got a couple more ideas coming for the future on those. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.